Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Licensing Committee. My name is James Gibson. I'm Chair of the Licensing Committee. And can I remind everybody that today's meeting is being live streamed? Can I now ask members, please, to introduce themselves, and I'll go from starting with the left, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. My name is Luke Farley, Labour Councillor for Bournemouth, Tottenham and Richmond Hill.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Isaac Wilson, Councillor for Wheatwood Ward.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Sharon Hamilton for Moortown and Meanwood Ward.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Martin, Councillor for Roundhay Ward.
Hello, I'm Stephen Holroyd Case, Councillor for Ardsley and Robin Hood.
Morning, everyone. Councillor Tom Hinchcliffe, Bramley and Stanley Ward.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everybody. My name is Councillor Asghar Ali for Kipton and Hare Hills.
Good morning, Councillor Dawn Seary, Pudsey and Tyersall Ward.
Morning all, I'm Ed Carlisle, Councillor for Hunsets and Riverside.
Morning, Councillor Hutchison, Morley North.
Morning, Councillor Rick Downs, Otley and Yeadon Ward.
Good morning, I'm Helen Gray, I'm the clerk for the committee.
Thank you very much, councillors. We shall go around now and ask officers and partners and SAG members to introduce themselves. There's a lot of people. Anybody who's sitting in the seats at the back, when it gets to you, I guess when it finishes with Councillor Harrington, maybe if you guys start coming up and introduce yourself and Councillor Harrington's microphone and then carry on from there. Thank you. If we go again.
Morning, everyone. Nick Gardner, Leeds City Council Traffic Team.
Good morning, Dave Skupski, Operations Manager for National Highways.
Morning, everyone. Dan Byrne, Public Health Lead for Drugs and Alcohol, Leeds City Council.
Good morning, everybody. Claire Smith, Head of Safer Neighbourhoods and Antisocial Behaviour for Safe, Stronger Communities.
Good morning, everybody. Nick Bedford from West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service.
Good morning, Melvin Benn, Managing Director of Festival Republic.
Good morning, Lucy Kinsella, Event Manager for Leeds Festival Republic.
Morning, everybody. My name's Nick Wallen. I'm here on behalf of Festival Republic.
Morning, everybody. Councillor Norma Harrington from Wetherby Ward.
And I'm going to invite officers and the chairs to come up now. Thank you.
Mr. Cunningham, I'm from the SAG today under the Resilience and Emergency team. It's Lisa Cunningham.
Good morning, all. I'm Ivan Tuff. I'm from the Security Industry Authority and attending with my colleague Crystal James.
Nicola Raper, Entertainment Licensing.
Good morning, Nick Hamill, Taxi and Private Hire Licensing, Leeds City Council.
Good morning, everybody. Matthew Nelson on behalf of Entertainment Licensing.
Good morning, everybody. John Mulcahy, Chief Officer, Elections and Regulatory. Both licensing sections fall within my remit.
Good morning, Jason Singh. I'm Head of City Centre and Regulatory Services.
Morning, I'm Dan Wood. I'm a Police Superintendent at Leeds District and also Public Order, Public Safety, Silver Commander.
Good morning, Mick Devine, West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service.
Yeah, good morning, Chris Fothergill, Yorkshire Ambulance Service, Emergency Planning.
Can I now ask Helen, please, to introduce the first few procedural items on the agenda?
Good morning, everyone. Under agenda item number 1, there are no appeals against refusal of inspection of documents. Under agenda item 2, there are no exempt items included in the agenda. However, members will note that in the report on the Leeds Festival 2003, there is reference, and members are highlighted that members may consider it appropriate for the public to be excluded from that part of the meeting to allow Mr. Benn of Festival Republic and other attendees to provide members with exempt information associated with the organisation of the festival for this year. Specifically if the information relates to the financial or business affairs of the organisation or a particular person, or if it relates to any action to be taken or proposed to be taken in the connection with the prevention or investigation or the prosecution of crime. Those sorts of issues will fall under our access to information procedure rules 10.43 and 10.47. So I would ask the committee to consider that during any discussions they have on the Leeds Festival. And at any point where that kind of information might be discussed, members may be asked to consider moving into closed session at that point. Okay, thank you. Under item 3, there are no late items. Under item 4, can I ask members to disclose any interest that they may have in either of the items today? None, thank you. And just agenda item number 5, Councillor Buckley has submitted his apologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. So we'll move now on to item number 6, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 26th of May 2023. Do members accept these as a correct record? Yeah, thank you very much. And are there any matters arising? No. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Now we shall move on to agenda item number 7, which is Leeds Festival 2023. Now we've decided, in fact, I'll allow Matthew first to introduce the item, please, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. So the committee are asked to consider the report for Leeds Festival 2023, providing updates on progress leading up to this year's event to be held at Bramham Park across the August Bank Holiday weekend. Representatives of Festival Republic, partners of the Safety Advisory Group, and Councillor Harrington, who jointly chairs the local residents working group, are available to provide the committee with updates and to answer any questions. Following last year's event, a debrief with the licensing committee was held in which Mr. Benn offered the licensing committee a number of assurances to be adopted for this year's event. As a reminder, a summary of those assurances can be noted at point 10 of the report on page 13. The premises licence for Leeds Festival is issued in perpetuity and contains a condition that requires the event management plan and any revisions to it to be approved by the licensing committee before the event. Given the evolving nature, the plan is not normally finalised until shortly before the event, and the committee in previous years have delegated approval to the chief officer, subject to feedback from the Safety Advisory Group partners. This year, however, the committee are asked to consider either to delegate approval of the plan to the chief officer, as in previous years, or to delegate approval of the plan to a licensing subcommittee, which has been provisionally scheduled for the 22nd of August at 2 p.m. If the committee do choose to delegate approval to a subcommittee, 3 volunteers will be required to sit on the panel. A further consideration for the committee is to exclude the public from part of the meeting to allow discussions of a sensitive nature, as previously mentioned. And finally, Ruth Turner, on behalf of the Environmental Protection Team, has contacted me to advise that unfortunately no one on behalf of the service is available for today's meeting. And as an update, Ruth has mentioned that noise arrangements are the same as last year, that they have no concerns, and officers will be on site monitoring throughout the weekend. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So we've decided that we're going to allow Mr. Benn and Festival Republic to make your presentation, as you usually would, at this point. Following that, we're going to allow SAG members to do a presentation individually. After each SAG member has had their presentation, or say however you want to describe it, we'll allow members to ask questions at that point. So that, and obviously they'll be pertaining to that particular area that the SAG member represents. So, for example, if West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service may speak directly after your presentation, and then members will be invited to ask questions to both yourself and your team and the fire service as well. Is that okay? That's what we've agreed in the pre-meeting before. So at this point, I'll hand over to you guys to do your presentation then, please. Thank you very much.
Chair, thank you. I'll hand over to Lucy, who has got a slide presentation, and we'll go through that. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I've just prepared some slides to update everyone on the current planning and preparations for this year's Leeds Festival. We've got a little over 3 weeks until the event, and so we are very much in the final preparation stages. I'm going to run through the different topic areas and just provide an update specifically on the actions and assurances that were given to the group when we last met at the debrief meeting on the 24th of January, and update on other things that we've been looking at as well for this year. So just to give an overview on this year's Leeds Festival, the lineup's now been announced. We are following a similar trend to the last couple of years now in terms of the demographic and the type of audience that will attract. The event is not sold out for this year yet, so the current plans that will then be shared with the SAG 2 weeks prior to the festival will obviously reflect that final anticipated expected attendance. The age demographic for Leeds Festival, we've done some work and worked with some independent market researchers to engage with the ticket holders from this year already to look at what the average age is. That's come back as 24.5 years old, and 55% of those being under 21. I will touch on a little bit later the number of 16 and 17-year-olds, because I know that's something that the group are keen to be able to put an exact number on for this year. Site changes at Leeds Festival this year. The arena itself is staying mainly enlarged the same, no huge changes to anything that will impact upon the crowd dynamics or the venues inside the arena. Main Stage West will be the home to the new silent disco that we're putting on the Sunday evening, but we're not anticipating that to have any off-site noise implications or anything at all, but that is a new change for this year. We've also, I'll come on to air hubs a little bit later on, but that model and principle of having additional static locations where people can go to and ask for help. We've created some spaces at Main Stage East and Main Stage West where our security response teams will be based when they're not out responding to different issues. So that's something that we have included for this year. In the campsite village, we're working with the same welfare team from last year. The medics will be based there, the information point, all of those facilities that we would normally have in the campsite village. And in addition to that, a check-in and chill area, which we're doing new for this year. Campsites, we've reduced the brown campsite just to reflect the anticipated numbers for this year. And we have grown the eco campsite, which is really positive, a positive addition for this year. As mentioned in the debrief, we're introducing air hubs, which again, I'll go into a little bit more detail on shortly. And we have got campsite welfare points as well for this year to replace the safe hubs. And finally, the campsite gates have been reviewed, not only in the infrastructure being provided, but also the model and makeup of those entry points. So then just to touch on fire safety. So for this year, we've committed to banning all campfires at this year's event. And we've now gone one step further than previously committed, and we've banned all of the disposable barbecues and any sort of open charcoal flame that we were previously allowing. So we've completely banned any type of open flame. We've kept the same level of fire safety provision in. So we've got our crew, we've got our Bowsers, we've also got the teams that walk around with the water backpacks. They'll still be deployed out on the fire towers, even though we're expecting there to be far less small fires to put out, having now banned those campfires and not allowing disposable barbecues. I should also mention that the fire risk assessment has been reviewed to reflect that. In addition to the fire risk assessment, we also have various appendices that include the extinguisher allocation and other things of note. Alcohol management and tobacco. Again, I think we previously committed to changing our challenge 21 up to challenge 25, which is now being rolled out across the majority of our festivals. That challenge 25 should also mean that more people are then encouraged to get an over 18s wristband, which is something that they can do when they arrive on the first day or two of the festival. Rather than have to take their ID everywhere with them, they can go up, get a verified ID check, swap that for an over 18 wristband, and then put their ID in a safe locker for the weekend. So that challenge 25 policy has been adopted by Central Fusion that will be running the bars for us on site, and included in all of the staffing and briefing documents as well. We're going to continue to employ an alcohol compliance manager. We'll go around and do those additional checks. I don't think we've had, it's been good feedback from the work we've done with the licensing officers around the alcohol compliance in recent years. So we're keeping that same structure in place. Finally, we're not allowing disposable vapes on site this year. This comes into under our sustainability policy, just because of the single use and not being able to, they can then affect the waste streams. But I have just included it within this section to note that there will be no disposable vapes allowed on site. We are still going to allow refillable vapes, but it's just the disposable ones that have been banned. So moving on to medical welfare and safeguarding. The medical management plan has been submitted, and version 2 of that's now available, just to reflect again the anticipated numbers in the campsites. We've contracted Elite EMS to be our on-site medics this year, who have experience of Leeds Festival and working with us before. They've committed to bring in an X-ray facility with them for this year to try and reduce the number of off-site transfers that are needed for any potential breaks or suspected fractures. The medical management plan's been discussed and reviewed in consultation with Yorkshire Ambulance Service as well, so I'll allow Chris and the team to come back on any further points that he feels need to be shared regarding that plan. Our safeguarding operational plan, again, has just been reviewed to include the overnight safeguarding team that we committed to having at the debrief earlier this year. We've always had safeguarding measures in place 24/7 throughout the festival. It's just increasing upon the Festival Republic safeguarding coordination team. So that's just extra resource for us to have. So we've got that written into the plan now. And we've also gone into a lot more detail about the different services and support network that we have on site. So not limited to, I think, who provide the welfare tent in the village, in the arena. We also have the welfare crew who do our campsite welfare points. So there's 2 large facilities in the campsite that are set up in a similar way to the arena and campsite points that also have a first aider in them as well. Safe gigs for women, Brook Advisory, Samaritans, the Salvation Army, Forward Leeds, Festival Angels, they'll all be back again, and that's detailed now very comprehensively in that safeguarding plan. Other things just to note, we're always looking to work with new groups and support services that come and offer to have a presence on site. So for this year, we're working with a Leeds-based group, the Egalitarian, that's done a lot of work around drink spiking and keeping women safe and safe places at a festival. So they'll be there along with the S-Safe, which are suicide prevention group from Leeds University. The 2 of those groups will be running the check-in and chill area in the village, which again is just another support service that we're offering for this year. The drink spiking test kits. So this, I just wanted to talk a little bit about when we met in January, we committed to more widely communicating that we had the drink spiking test kits available to purchase. Having done a little bit more work around this, we feel that actually to be offering them up for sale, whilst we still will do that and have them available, what we want to do is be encouraging people to come forward if they feel that they've had their drink spike, attend the welfare tent and get that drink tested free of charge. So we will have them there available, and we'll make that clear on our website and in comms, but that won't be the leading piece with communications. So they're there be there available to purchase a pounder strip. But if you do feel your drink's been spiked, please come forward to anyone, alert us to it. We'll test that free of charge, and we can then, it means that the correct support services and trained people are there to then be able to respond, rather than someone going away and doing that test independently and it coming back with a negative result. We've continued to work on our drugs advisory messaging, and I'm sure Dan may touch on it upon later, but the hashtag Look Out For Each Other campaign, which was introduced in 2021, has again been reviewed for this year. The group, which comprises of members from Leeds Festival and Reading Festival, so both the police forces and the drugs and alcohol teams from the different councils, have pulled together and reviewed the campaign for this year, made some minor tweaks to those animations and also the static messages that we'll be putting out. So next, we've just done a whole slide on this because it is something now that's that has come up a couple of times about the system to capture the number of 16 and 17-year-olds on site and how we do that more effectively. So for this year, what we plan to do is advise all festival goers that are coming to the event to bring a form of ID with them along with their ticket. So when they turn up to the wristband exchange counter, they will have to give their ticket along with ID, and if they're seen to be under 18, at that point the wristband takes a count and we're able to just have a live count of how many 16 and 17-year-olds we have on site. Some of those 16 and 17-year-olds may have an adult with them, but that should then give us a more accurate figure, which has been requested in the past. Again, and any questions later on, please do feel free to ask. We felt that that was the best way, rather than issuing a supplementary wristband, highlighting others to someone being under 18, that actually us just holding an accurate data count is going to be the best way forward. Those figures will be shared at the daily on-site SAG meetings, along with the other stats that we share at those points as well. Security and stewarding plans for this year. So we plan to work with most of the same security and stewarding companies as we did in 2022, but we've looked at where those placements will be, and specifically the training and experience that they have. So we'll keep to working with Advantage and Titan Security in our arena, where they specialise in pit security and dealing with crowds are in more sort of highly dense areas. And then we work with other teams such as Pathway, who provide surveillance teams, behavioural detection officers. We've actually increased that by 50% on our campsite gates to look at that entry system across the festival. I shan't go into that in too much detail, the campsite strategy that we've put in place for this year. And I'll allow Melvin and Nick to talk about that in a little bit more detail, either in the closed session or when we talk about security and policing. In addition, we've enhanced our own staff vetting process. So any of the security and stewarding personnel coming to site, we've always asked them to submit details that are then sent to the police to be run through the police national computer to carry out those checks. We're doing more work though to make sure any last minute additions that turn up on site have been through those checks, and that all of the security teams on site have been through that process before being allowed to work with us. The information on the different security companies and the deployment schedule have all been shared with the SIA. There was some feedback last year that they would like more engagement from us. So we've committed, we've done our 28-day submission, and part of that was getting in touch with the SIA to give them our final security plans and the security companies that we plan to work with for them to carry out their checks. The drugs detection dogs, we have managed to increase those for 2023. It's always been a struggle for us over the August bank holiday weekend to get the resource, but we have managed to secure some more drugs detection dogs. We saw in 2022 that the gates that had the drugs detection dogs had the most surrendered drugs items in the bins. So we're hoping that that will further encourage people to surrender drugs and not try to bring them into the festival. And finally, the CCTV plan, which is already extensive across the site, has been reviewed just to ensure that we're capturing as many places as possible. Not too many changes to be made to that, to be honest, because we were already looking at campsites, entry points already. So next, just to go on to air hubs, which I think we shared with some of the members in this room, but not everyone. So we've now finalised upon having 16 of these air hubs in our campsites at Leeds Festival for 2023. The AIR is an acronym for Assistance, Information and Response, and they are located approximately 200 metres apart, meaning that if there isn't a campsite management office or a welfare point, then if you're stood in a campsite at Leeds Festival, you should be able to see an air hub. They're going to be open from 24 hours on the Wednesday when we open to early bird ticket holders, right through to midday on the Monday when we clear the campsites. They're going to be staffed by local community groups and charities, including the Festival Angels, which already work with us on site, doing detached teams and running their prayer tent. St Gemma's Hospice, Bramham Football Club, and also Oxfam, who have a stewarding presence on site. We have begun to trial the air hubs at other shows across Festival Republic, and there's just a few images here. You can see in the middle there, that is an air hub before it's been given any love and attention by the teams who are then working in them across the weekend. We then put an LED screen up, so you can see on the top right hand side the LED screen and how effectively it can be seen when it's pitch dark at night. So they can be seen, like I say, hopefully from anywhere across the campsites, and each group that is staffing those air hubs will be given the uniforms which have hashtag look out for each other on them. They'll also be engaging with customers. We're going to be doing some hashtag look out for each other temporary tattoos, which we've seen to be successful, and just sort of start those conversations with campers, and then to engage about, you know, we can look at they've got questions or information that's needed. They then know that they can always go to those points and ask for help. Next, sustainability. As you know, Festival Republic and the Leeds Festival, we've always had a strong emphasis on what we do around sustainability. The Eco Campsite, I'm pleased to share, we've now had 4,821 people sign up, which is a huge increase on the 700 and so that we had in 2022. So really hoping that we can continue to grow that in these last few weeks of the festival, and have as many people commit to staying in that campsite, in which they pledge to take their tent home with them, continue to recycle, and really just carry on that sustainable ethos. The salvage operation will be in effect again for 2023. That will run on the Monday and Tuesday after the festival itself. And we're also looking at, we have agreed upon further incentives to offer as sort of rewards for people at the festival. So side of stage experiences, and other sort of high value instant reward items for those that do recycle at the festival, that can get that rather than being entered into a competition for next year. So hopefully those increased incentives will again just improve that recycling rate. We have set up a sustainability subgroup, of which Councillor Wilson and others have been part of for this year. We've met twice. The group's now been established, and I think we can now use that to hopefully inform and discuss the sustainability feedback, and I suppose in the debrief for next year we can then engage with those councillors straight away and pick up and share the information that we've obtained. And again, just noting on disposable vapes, which does feed into the single use, which we absolutely do not want to endorse. Next, on noise management and environmental health, so the only real change to impact upon the noise management plan is the change in location of Anachronica, which is one of our late night campsite stages. That has got a new home for 2023, which has been shown on our site plan and also included in the noise management plan. And then we've also got rid of the green campsite DJ. So that should be hopefully that shouldn't, the new stage location won't have an impact off-site, but we have still got those noise monitoring locations that included an additional one in Barrack and Scholes for 2022 that we're keeping for this year. Our water safety management plan hasn't seen any significant changes since last year, and again that's been shared with the health and safety team, and our water consultant will be on site to see that through. We also employ an independent environmental health officer that comes and does the additional trader checks and ensures that everything is being followed. Finally, traffic management, sorry. We spoke at the debrief about only needing to make some few tweaks really going into this year. The bones of the plan have stayed the same. We're keeping the A64 closure eastbound in place from the Wednesday throughout till the Monday afternoon of the festival. That worked really well this last year and means that we can send local traffic on the new ELAW route. The egress plan is something that was looked at and has been updated for 2023. We've done some work around the management of junction 44 on the A1M, and they've been shared with the traffic subgroup. We've continued to liaise with local residents, and the one outstanding issue that we had was around the Aberford local bus service. Had some recent conversations about perhaps the lack of that service being picked up by the number 7 that runs through Thorner, but again, we're in sort of final conversations with West Yorkshire Combined and the Leeds City Council Highways team about that. We've got a new traffic management company running our pick up and drop off operation on site, which continues to be quite a big operation each year, just based off the A64. And then finally, new for 2023, we have appointed an overall traffic control manager to be based in our event control tent, overseeing the off-site and the on-site and joining it up. It's just an additional measure really that we've put in place to ensure that everyone's speaking to each other and that we've got one point of contact if anyone from highways needs that, rather than having to go to on-site or off-site. There's just someone that has the overall picture in event control at all times. Next on signage, orientation and information, we had some feedback of wanting more signage from when you leave the arena itself to then getting back to either the car parks or the pick up and drop off area. So we've increased our VMS signs that we have around the site significantly. So now when customers leave that arena entrance, they will clearly be able to see those big lit electronic signs on the route back towards wherever they park their car, or if they're going to get picked up at the end of the night. We had the LED screens already on the way to the bus station and the coach station, so it is just mimicking that plan and adopting it across the site. We also spoke and made assurances at the last meeting that the safety messaging for customers using private hire vehicles and taxis would be implemented. So we've had those mocked up and they'll be printed on the outside of each of the taxi pens on site for this year. And finally, as always, the festival app continues to be downloaded by almost everyone that comes to the festival. So we'll continue to use that as a main source of information. If we do need to push out notifications at any point throughout the festival, that can always then link across to the website with more detail and copy and information if needed. And the air hubs, of course, have those electronic screens as well. So as you saw on that sign earlier, the majority of those will have an electronic sign where we can again put out information if needed and change that at any point. And finally, just the further planning and preparations now, really, like I say, we're in those final stages. Plans have been shared, scrutinised by the Safety Advisory Group. We have got the final SAG meeting next Tuesday on the 8th of August. And then following that, we have a security briefing and a tabletop exercise, which we carry out annually to practice and rehearse different scenarios if we ever had to, if a major incident was ever declared, and also just give us the opportunity to introduce agencies to the security firms that we're working with and other private people employed by us. Finally, the EMP submission, so that's the final EMP that goes in 14 days prior to the festival, will be circulated to everyone on Resilience Direct on the 11th of August. And then further to that, we've got our final Leeds Festival working group, which is made up of a number of different representatives from the local areas in which we share information about traffic, noise, and other things that of note. So that's taking place on Tuesday, the 15th of August. It gives them the final opportunity to ask any questions that local people have or need to know, and we can feed that back before the week of the festival. So that's a summary of the final meetings that we've got ahead of us, and really how we're getting on with those preparations and planning for this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kinsella. That was very thorough, and I must say it's responded to a lot of the concerns that we raised earlier in the year, and specifically the letter that I sent Festival Republic earlier in the year as well. So we appreciate that you're clearly listening, and you've clearly made additional provision to meet some of the concerns that have been raised in previous meetings, and we really appreciate that. So we're going to ask partners now individually to speak. SAG partners. Is there anybody that's got a timeline that needs to go early or anything like that wants to go first? I was thinking that perhaps West Yorkshire Police will go into closed session for your report, or for half of it, or if the security issues make sense. Does that sound okay? And if that's acceptable to members, of course. Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, in that case, then, in no particular order, we shall start with we'll start with West Yorkshire Police. Superintendent Wood, then, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to introduce a little bit of sort of context for how events like this are policed. It begins with a gold strategy from my Assistant Chief Constable, Mr. Jesters, who's written that. He sets some strategic objectives for the event. Then as Civil Commander, I write a tactical plan looking to achieve those objectives. He has preferred or acceptable outcomes that we tend to work to for those objectives. To characterise those, to establish and develop a coordinated intelligence and information capability. And obviously, that's not just for the police, but working with Festival Republic to share that key information intelligence and other key partners. To work to minimise crime, protect vulnerable people, respond to victims of serious crime, particularly young women and girls, and respond to antisocial behaviour, to provide a capability to respond quickly and effectively to any incidents, to provide reassurance where possible and create a safe environment for the wider community, and to minimise traffic disruption. They're the key objectives, which in writing my tactical plan, that's what we're aiming to achieve. Then from that, key individuals at the event write either silver or bronze deployment plans according to the tactics that are set. Just to give you an idea of the dedicated policing resourcing that is in place, the local neighbourhood policing teams are key, both in the city centre and up at the team that are based at Wetherby. The team at Wetherby write a community impact assessment, which is local to Bramham and the area around there, attended to community concerns. And the city centre is key as well, particularly the area where the shuttle buses go from. We'll have additional police in there to protect the people there. And we have Project Servitor operating, which aims to deter and disrupt criminality. And we're liaising with British Transport Police, who are running a specific operation. The transport hub there is key because we obviously see a lot of young people coming in to the railway stations, bus stations, areas like that, who could find themselves at risk of exploitation by criminal gangs. Dedicated to the event, we've obviously got communications operators. For the first time this year, we've got a dedicated police resource in Festival Republic's own on-site control room to improve communication even further. We put additional capacity on our custody areas so that anybody we arrest can be properly addressed and triaged properly, and full robust investigations take place. Road policing units are key. We've worked in advance with Nick's teams and others to make sure the traffic plan is addressed. That includes 4x4 and off-road motorcycle vehicles. Got a dedicated intelligence cell between the hours of 7 AM and 10 PM. And we still have night capacity through the night with an office manager. Really important is our crime resources. We've got a dedicated safeguarding bronze detective sergeant this year, purely for safeguarding matters, a range of specialist teams to deal with any serious and particularly sexual allegations of that nature that are made. And for the first year, we've also got a dedicated crime scene investigator on site. They're the forensic staff that can do that important crime scene or victim work. So there should be no delay at all in attending to victims or crime scenes at the site. For the first time this year, we've also got Operation Spotlight at the festival. That's part of our violence reduction unit. These are covert officers who will be focused on particularly on perceived predatory behaviour against vulnerable people. And then we have what you would expect, the normal bobbies, if you like, in uniform, doing that reassurance work on the perimeters, on the gates, in the festival where appropriate. And they have the ability to, if required, escalate to higher level public order tactics if needed. Lucy briefly mentioned we have a drugs testing officer on site. He does drugs testing and is going to be working with the other agency that the festival recruit. That's given us this year even broader range of drugs testing options to be able to identify drugs of concern and provide that contemporaneous advice to festival goers. A communications plan is in place, and for the first year we actually have a dedicated armed response vehicle, just as purely as a contingency option if it should be required. So yeah, just to reassure, all the crime plans, deployment plans are now in place. My tactical plan is written. I've been up for a pre-site visit a couple of months ago to understand the geography, which is very helpful from Festival Republic. I'll be there on the Tuesday afternoon before the event. I'll be present Wednesday to Monday throughout the day, 7-7, and my colleague Nick Ireland does a 7-7 night shift. I'm supported this year by Matt Davison, who's done it for 6 years, is very experienced. So in summary, my police update is that all command protocols are now in place, all the dedicated resourcing is precepted and in place, and I'm satisfied it's all of the right capacity and capability to meet those objectives that I mentioned at the start.
Again, very thorough and appreciate the thoroughness. Members, do we have any questions? And please do remember that we'll be going into closed session to talk about some of the issues which obviously can't be discussed publicly. But any immediate questions for either Festival Republic or Superintendent Wood? Yes, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wonder, do you monitor incidents of assault year on year and drug arrests, for instance? And is criminality going up year on year, or reports of it, or is it going down? I just wonder if you've got any thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we do monitor it closely, both throughout the event and then with year-on-year comparisons. I think at the 2022 event, there was 141 crimes, which was slightly up on the previous year, but only maybe in the region of 20 or 30 crimes in total up. So it's been fairly stable. There was obviously the COVID year, which didn't take place, but as we work through the event, throughout each sort of day or half day, we'll be monitoring the crimes that come in and see if there's any patterns or trends or spikes in crime that we'll respond to really urgently. Yeah.
Sorry, it's go on, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, you've answered my question really, because I was going to ask you, is the police present going to be increased? And you've mentioned for first. That will be there. You said first drug testing. You said, so that was going to be my question, but you've answered them, because when the carnival takes place, there's a massive presence of police. I know, and that's one day with a very large number, but this is a 4 days. So my question to you, we're going to ask you about some of those, but you've answered them, because you said there's the first response, etc., will be present. And also to Republica, we're going to ask about the increase with regards to the dogs. Because I've been told that by the police that the festival is private, run by private, so therefore you will have to contribute to Any extras? Is that where the increase of the dogs come?
Well, yes, we bring in the additional drugs testing dogs ourselves, councillor.
I think we can talk more about that in the private session. Councillor Carlisle, please, and then Councillor Hinchcliffe.
Thanks. Just building upon Councillor Martin's question, and this might be more appropriate once we've heard from health professionals, but I also had a question about trends around, I suppose, welfare issues, or I don't know, kind of festival goers who've kind of had a drug overdose or whatever. Like, are those trends going up and down, or do we know? Like,
There is no evidence that they're going up, councillor.
do you keep? I mean, do you keep those? Yeah, I'm not sure they are going up, but do you keep those figures year on year?
Of course, 100%. You know, we do. You know, during the daily SAG meetings at the festival, we're doing comparisons with the previous years at exactly those same times. So comparisons are very much a stable of how we organise and react if we need to organise and react.
Please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, can I just welcome the ban on the disposable vapes, because I know we mentioned that it is an environmental concern, but when they are crushed, the battery can set alight as well. So there is a fire safety risk there as well. Can I ask how the complete ban on campfires has been advertised? Because you mentioned that the fire safety crew members is the same as previous years. If this hasn't been advertised properly in comms, then do we anticipate that the amount of small fires will be the same? And on drink spiking tests, is there any provision to provide these for free in advance? Because I think my concern is that it seems a bit reactive rather than preventative to provide them for free once someone has been suspectedly spiked. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor, in terms of the just in terms of the vapes to start with, it will be impossible to prevent people bringing them in. They're small. I believe they're very small. The complete ban is on any retail of them on site, with very heavy focus on discouraging bringing them, very much on the environmental position because of the inability to take out the battery and separate the battery from the rest of the materials. So you know, that's very much the focus on that. In terms of the fires, there is a fairly comprehensive press release going out today, 1st of August, and information on the website and you know, the app that will go live very soon on all of that stuff. It's a very comprehensive explanation of the changes around campfires and that sort of thing. So I think the message will be well and truly out as of today. I'm sure I'd be very surprised if the Yorkshire Post don't pick it up, for example. And the last point in terms of spiking, the ability to give out free spiking tests for, I mean, people, and we did the research among, you know, young people that work within, you know, our organisation and that we talk to all of the time. They're not out every night testing their drinks before every drink that they get. It's just not something that happens, and therefore the reliability of the spiking test is not 100%, and we'd love it to be, and therefore the focus on connecting the concern about it, about reporting it, going to one of the sort of assistance opportunities, and connecting it into the Ask Angela campaign is much more achievable, and I think will provide much better results in that sense. So it's connecting it into that Ask Angela, which has become just a sort of universal way of operating for most of my teams now. It's become incredibly successful, and that feels to be the right way forward for us.
Councillor Ali, then please.
I was going to ask around the vapes, how you're going to police them. So you're saying that vapes won't be sold on site, but people can bring those on. So what, could I finish, please? Thank you. So I'm just worried here what you're trying to say. So if people are bringing vapes on site, can they bring them? You've mentioned that they're so small. Okay.
Disposable vapes. Vapes will be sold on site. Reusable vapes, refillable vapes will be sold on site. Disposable vapes are very small, will be impossible to prevent coming onto site. We are heavily discouraging them, and where they are found, they will be taken from people.
So will you be taking those off people when they're coming into the venue or after the venue?
Wherever they're found, councillor.
Okay, Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, thank you. It's regarding the alcohol side. We have to ask questions on that now or closed session?
Well, what we intended to do was how people from SAG have their say and then sort of talk about that particular area. But I think everyone's just jumping in with what questions they've got.
You mentioned that there's the wristbands for over 18s where they bring their ID. I just wondered how they'll be checking for fake IDs, because obviously that's a huge part. And I think some IDs are pretty good. And there's special machines, I think, that you can actually check if they're fake or not. And then how do you also then restrict the people who have got a wristband purchasing alcohol for people who are under 18?
The checks on people that look under 25, there is a wristband opportunity once they're inside the festival, where if they are people that regularly get asked if they're over 25, and you would have seen heard from Lucy's presentation that we have moved from Challenge 21 to Challenge 25 this year, so that number will grow, and they go to a particular wristband setup within the festival. So once they're within the campsite or once they're within the festival, to present identifiable ID, which is passport and or driving license generally. Student cards, etc., we don't take as being valid, and fake IDs we confiscate. That's been very successful for us. Can we prevent people buying alcohol for others? No. In the same way that supermarkets can't prevent that, and we make no claim to be able to do that. No one can.
If we can just come back on that one then. So if somebody looks like they are under the influence of alcohol and they appear to be under the age of 18, will they be challenged, and will under 18s also be required to carry ID on them as well?
I'm not entirely certain what that. In that we're asking everyone attending the festival to bring ID in order that we can establish how many 16 and 17-year-olds will be there. The anticipation is that everybody on site will have ID. Will they carry it with them at all times? pretty certainly not. For those that are particularly active in front of the stages, where they're, quite often in their shorts and t-shirts, they're not necessarily carrying a great deal of storage space on there, but within their clothing, no, they're unlikely to be carrying ID at all times, in the same way that no part of society in the United Kingdom requires people to carry ID on them at all times either. And we're not going to be separated from that position. So no, they won't be carrying ID at all times. But people that are under the influence, if they are under 18s and we are able to establish them, we would take them to welfare. That's what we would do, to a welfare support position.
Councillor Carlisle.
Just immediately off the back of that query, there's probably a really easy and obvious solution to this, but just query. So what system would you have to stop an 18-year-old coming on site, presenting ID, getting a wristband, going to their friends who aren't 18, snipping off and using sellotape or something to give it to their under 18 friends, and then going back and getting another wristband for themselves?
It's a very good question, probably for closed session. Very much. In that case, then we shall move on to Chris Fothergill from the Yorkshire Ambulance Service. Thanks, Chris.
Morning, Councillor. Thanks very much. Similar to the police, we have an overall strategic intention for events, from small events to very large events like Leeds Festival, and that is to ensure that there's proportionate medical resourcing on site for all, for all public safety, and also to ensure that that event has minimum impact upon the statutory ambulance service and wider health. We do that via the Safety Advisor Group. We start early. We started very early this year. We started in November 2022, and we have had a series of bespoke medical meetings. After every festival, we have a debrief, and we provide recommendations to the Safety Advisor Group Chair and to Festival Republic. When we have those meetings, we look at those recommendations. And I must say, this year they've taken on a lot of recommendations of Festival Republic. We are reassured this year that they are using Elite EMS, not because they're the actual medical company, but because they are CQC, Care Quality Commission registered. That enables a provider to provide off-site transfer and to provide treatment of disease, injury and illness. Last year, due to the company were not CQC registered, they had some slight issues around off-site transfers, and they also had some issues around on-site X-ray. So again, this year, we are reassured that they have sorted them out. So like I say, there is a CQC provider, Elite EMS are CQC registered, and we've had a reassurance that X-ray, on-site X-ray facilities will be on site. Just to give some context, casualty data is normally between 1% to 2%. So the figures we've got last year from Friday to Sunday were just short of 1,300. And there was 21 off-site transfers, which I know sounds quite large, but again, it's a small proportion really for the size of the patients that they deal with. And quite a few of them were because they need to go for X-ray and to go to definitive care. So again, we have the reassurance with X-ray on site and appropriate treatment on site. That number should lessen. As far as other recommendations, developments, throughout the many years now, liaised with Festival Republic, we've built those strong networks and relationships, taken on board a recommendation to have YAS, Yorkshire Ambulance Service, presence there 24/7 now. Previous years, we've had an attendance from an ambulance liaison officer from midday till midnight. But obviously, the busy periods go on beyond midnight. Previous years, we've had a few issues with inappropriate hospital designations. A lot of the private medical companies may not understand the different pathways and the different specialities hospitals have. So by having a presence there 24/7, we can ensure that those conversations take place between Elite EMS and the Yorkshire Ambulance Service, and we make sure the right patient goes to the right place first time, which saves any secondary transfers. And like I say, we are there with some ambulance liaison officers. 2 ambulance liaison officers will be present on site. They start on the Thursday to cover the early birds, And then, like I say, from Friday to Sunday, it's 24-hour cover. Festival Republic have no duty to procure that, but they've taken on board the recommendations. And like I say, we have seen the benefits of us being on site. We're not there for the conventional treatment that a private provider provides. The medical resourcing is to guidance. The current guidance is the Purple Guide. The Purple Guide categorises events in different sizes from tier 1 to tier 4. The festival sits in a tier 4, so it's quite extensive resourcing. The current medical plan is to guidance, and in some respect it's above guidance, again, which is reassuring, especially around the on-site ambulances. So again, more reassurances that there'll be less draw upon the Yorkshire Ambulance Service, and the previous years has been very little draw upon the Yorkshire Ambulance Service to come to site. We have a facility in place that should a member of the public ring 999 from the festival site, which is very rare, but it can happen. We can have those conversations with our on-site team and make sure that the right resource is dispatched at the correct time. So again, that's another benefit of us being on scene. But the main benefit there is being there for command and control. If there's a critical or major incident, we have a liaison officer, we have a commander, an on-scene commander on site 24/7. And again, some recommendations that Festival Republic have taken on board is Manchester Arena inquiry recommendations. There were several recommendations there around command and control. Again, to bolster that, it's quite a draw upon our resources for this cover. We have well-experienced commanders, but some have not provided cover at the festival before. So we've arranged site visits, which we'll do the week before. We will also be present at the tabletop exercise, and we've given some medical injects as such to be exercised. So again, that's reassuring that they've taken them on board. Like I say, we started early, which is good. We are very busy ambulance service. We are limited capacity really to draw into events, and that's why we engage via the Safety Advisory Group and Festival Republic to make sure there's adequate resourcing. I think that's really the main points. But like I say, the main thing really was the X-ray facilities, which again are on site. There's a few minor points we just need to clarify, mainly around the storage of the images after the event. But that's something that's been taken on by the Integrated Care Boards and NHS England. They provided advice to Elite EMS and to Festival Republic. So those are the main areas really, and I believe I've provided a top line brief from previous questions, but I'm happy to take any more questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. And again, very thorough. Very pleased to hear that there's been some significant improvements, especially with the 24/7 presence of you guys in the ambulance liaison and the CQC registered provider. A couple of questions from myself. Why did I believe that the current provider that you have at the moment, you've used previously? Am I correct in that?
That's correct, yes.
Why did you switch provider last year?
The current provider wasn't available to us last year, Chair.
The provider you've got at the moment that CQC registered is your preference if as and when you can use them. Yeah.
That's correct, Chair.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much. Second question. Again, welcome the increased provision in respect to the X-ray service. I noted last time that you'd mentioned, I think, I'm not sure if it was yourself, Chris, but certainly somebody from the Yorkshire Ambulance Services, that there wasn't enough ice packs and other things to cool people down. If such a issue arises, they would need to be cooled down rather. I wondered if that's been improved upon.
Yes, I believe my colleague provided some information on that, and I'm being assured that they've looked at that and there will be more provision on site for ice. I think the original recommendation there was in respect to last year and the ability to cool a patient rapidly. So again, the recommendations were that the medical provision have some access, immediate access to ice, which we believe that's in place.
Chair, could I say that I believe your statement was incorrect. There was adequate ice packs last year there will be more this year, but there was ice packs required for cooling people, very much in accordance with the guidance that exists. So for me to suggest that there wasn't would be incorrect.
I'm just going off what was discussed in the SAG meeting by a SAG partner. So obviously that's something that can be discussed at a later date. But I note that you are suggesting that there was enough ice and other cooling down provision. Okay, thank you very much. I'll open this up to members now then, please. Claire Hinchcliffe.
Thanks, Chair. Quick one to our ambulance colleague. With X-rays on site, if someone does break their arm, are they patched up and treated on site and allowed to remain on site? And with transfers to hospital, I know it's a very small amount in proportion to the whole festival, but is it mainly people that break bones, or is it other issues like drug overdoses and things like that, and overheat, as we say?
Like I say, the Yorkshire Ambulance Service are there mainly for command and control. Full breakdown of casualty data is held by the private medical provider. But in relation to the question about the X-ray, they do have, like I say, the ability to do X-ray on site, and they do have almost like a fracture clinic to on site, so they will be able to do appropriate treatment. But if a patient needed to go to definitive care, that will be a decision made by the medical team. And like I said, the medical team varies from doctors, consultants, radiographers, paramedics. So the resourcing is basically it's a mini field hospital, for want of a better terminology.
There's any other questions? No? Councillor Harrington, would you like to speak? You're off further down the list, but I'm very conscious of the fact that you're a volunteer and you're not part of a statutory agency. And I just remind members as well that that is the case. So please, just bear in mind that you're here, that Councillor Harrington's here voluntarily.
Thank you. It's just really to say that we've worked intensively with Festival Republic for several months, including all of the parish councils in the outer northeast. So everybody who possibly could be affected by the festival is invited to take part in that. The major issues, obviously, we look at are transport and traffic management issues, and there have been some noise issues in previous years, but we know that work's being carried out, and we are relieved to see that those noise monitoring stations are going to be happening, and the Barrack and Skulls one is largely welcome. Thank you very much for that. Access and egress still remains a bit of a priority with the impact on the local area, and we just want to make sure that highways in consultation actually make sure that the signage that's put out is appropriate and far enough back so that people aren't coming across it in the very, very local areas at short notice. But other than that, we just applaud Festival Republic for the way that they've interacted with local groups. Thank you.
Smashing. Thank you very much, Councillor Harrington. Any questions, Councillor Martin?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Harrington. I've got a question about egress and transport. Is it appropriate to ask it now, Chair? No. I'll wait for the transport bit then. Okay, so just thinking about the numbers of people leaving the festival when it's over, and the need to do that effectively. So there's a question about will the A64, I know that bits of it get closed. I think it is transport actually, because it's about bits of the A64 being closed to cars, but buses can use them. I'm just wondering whether taxis will be able to use them as they can usually when it's buses only lanes. So that was one. And then the other thing is about within the plan, at point K, it says safety messaging for customers using taxis / private hire vehicles about the dangers of getting into unbooked vehicles. Well, actually, Hackney carriages, the black and white carriages, cabs, aren't. You don't book them. They're just you go into them. So I'm just wondering whether you're discouraging people from using really safe forms of transport. So that was my two questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll wait for taxi and private hire licensing and highways to answer those questions for you. But I noted, I don't suppose there's anything you want to comment on people walking through the villages locally or anything like that, not being able to get transport back. Is there anything that you've noticed?
There have been issues in the past, but I think last year there was a major improvement in that. And there are some shuttle buses running, which was a major problem for people coming from the Wetherby area, which gets snarled up with parents taking kids backwards and forwards. But again, that's been running and was very, very welcome. And that's happening again. And if we can get the number 7 bus pickup sorted out with Wyker that we mentioned earlier, then that would help also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming as well, Councillor Harrington. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, come back and then we'll crack on. Okay, thank you. 30-second warning then, please, everyone. Can we all get back to our seats? Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to highways and taxi and private hire licensing, I think, since that's the direction that the questions were going. So, Dave Supsky. Dave, where are you? How do I pronounce your name?
Skupski.
Thank you. And I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, so National Highways, we have a role managing the strategic road network. So in relation to the festival, our focus is primarily keeping the motorway network running, so the M1, A1M, the A64. As Lucy has covered, the traffic management plan was seen to be fairly successful last year, so there have been only minor changes this year. It's, as others have mentioned, our engagement with Festival Republic has been really positive. We were discussing following last year's event, and we've been planning throughout last year and into this year. I'm aware that there has been a complete review of the hard signage through Festival Republic and their signage provider, and we have supported that. We also have comprehensive variable message signs, so that's utilising the motorway network signage for all the traffic coming to the festival. So those will provide guidance for the traffic that's coming for both parking and pick up and drop off, directing them either to junction 44 or 45 during the arrivals period. We have a dedicated Silver Commander on the Wednesday when we tend to see the greatest number of arrivals, and we've increased our resourcing for the Wednesday daytime as well to support that. I am aware that there are additional portable variable message signs as well. There were a couple of locations identified last year that could benefit from that, which are being implemented. And one of the other points coming out of last year was directing traffic for York away from the junctions 44 and 45, and we've added additional signage for that. The main area where we were looking to improve was during the egress, so on the Sunday night and during the Monday daytime. So the approach at junction 45 of the A1M, which was seen to work successfully last year, is being retained for this year. So that includes a closure of the northbound exit slip at junction 45 during Monday daytime to support egress traffic from the car parks that way. For junction 44 at Bramham Crossroads, we've had quite a bit of discussion with both Festival Republic and West Yorkshire Police as to the best approach to take for managing the traffic there during the Sunday night and the Monday daytime, and have agreed a joint operation which will be staffed by National Highways traffic officers and West Yorkshire Police, and it's essentially directing traffic by hand. And whilst that may sound rather low level, it's the best option for the complexity of the junction and responding to the needs during the egress period, because we see great changes in the traffic flows as to where traffic is coming out of. We can balance that with a joined up operation between the two organisations. As Lucy's mentioned, the only sort of outstanding issue from our side is in relation to the Aberford bus. So there was a safety concern raised by our staff last year regarding that, and we have had some discussion with the combined authority, and I think as Lucy's touched on, we're just waiting for a conclusion of that. But in summary, the traffic management approach from our side and the off-site approach remains largely unchanged, which National Highways are happy with, and that consistent approach, a consistent plan through the festival period is what we've been looking for and was achieved last year with the opening of E-Law, and we hope that it will work successfully again for this year. But happy to take any additional questions.
Thank you for that. And as I'd said in the SAG meeting that we had last week, I think there'd been notable improvements in traffic flow, and we've had a lot of positive comments. So you're doing a great job. Thank you very much, as well as Festival Republic as well on that front. Councillor Martin, you had a question about Hackney carriages using bus routes.
Yes, thank you very much. Given what Councillor Harrington also said about the problems with parents driving back and forth to the site, we obviously want to encourage the use of taxis and buses. And my question is, will there be bus-only routes on the A64? And if so, will they be able to be used by taxis and private hire?
Have we got someone from LCC Highways here? Yeah. Do you? I mean, you could feel free to jump in at this point as well if it's pertinent to your remit.
I have to be honest, I'm not aware that there's a provision for that on York Road. Which section are you referring to?
I was thinking of between York Road and the city centre going from the site.
No, there's no special provision.
Received representations that there was a different special provision for buses to access the site. It's not the case at all that anyone's aware of. Okay. Well, in that case, then, Nick, do you want to carry on?
Yeah, from a Leeds City Council traffic management point of view, I mean, it's been covered well by Dave and Lucy. We did a lot of work last year in delivering a slightly different traffic management plan because of this big section of road that was open called E-Law. That worked very well. Feedback was very good. We didn't get any complaints. So we've worked on the same plan this year. There's a couple of subtle changes that not that relevant, but one was to prevent some accidents at Kiddle Lane when we got a few shunts, didn't we, I believe? So we're closing that hard closure. It's been mentioned about this bus situation. I've been talking with colleagues at Wyker yesterday. They are going to terminate the bus at Aberford because of the highway concern about being able to run that through the roundabout, the changes to the traffic management, the knock-on effect that has. But if the number 7 bus can continue to run through Thorner as it normally does, which Lucy confirmed before the meeting it can, that sort of alleviates that. So that one issue now is tied up. I will liaise with colleagues at Wyker tomorrow to advise them that that will be the case, and that was the only outstanding issue.
Any questions, members, on highways issues? Yes, Councillor Ellie.
It's a basic one, basically traffic management. You're dropping off passengers. I'm wary of a question that I have here. A checkpoint should be set up near the Red Bus Cafe on A64, only for taxis and hire, taxi and private hire and Uber vehicles with passengers on board should be allowed past this point. Picking up passengers, only Hackney carriage vehicles should be allowed through the Red Bus checkpoint. Private hire and Uber vehicles that show no evidence that they have a pre-booking only to be allowed through. It's a question to traffic management.
Independence is not at this meeting, is it? How's that usually managed on the day, Lucy?
Yeah, so we don't allow any vehicles through that closure that we have at the Red Bus checkpoint. So that's a pass operated system only. And it's been agreed that we don't allow special arrangements for anyone to come through that closure. There's a dedicated taxi route for any taxis wishing to get onto site. They've got their own route into the taxi rank, and then they're allowed to do a right turn out straight into Leeds city centre. So that's been agreed upon. And yeah, we're not looking to allow taxis through that road closure that's in place as part of the overall traffic management plan.
Sorry, you finished. One more. So is the Hackney Carriage pickup point the nearest to the festival exit point or gates?
They're all located in the vicinity. There's a separation between the pens, if you like, to separate Hackney carriages in a taxi rank, and then private hire vehicles, and then Ubers. But they're all at that. It's located next to the pick up and drop off area, and there's a dedicated area for taxis there.
Councillor Ali, you do need to go through the chair rather than just keep
Sorry,
putting
my
you.
apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to allow you one more question, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Martin, please.
Okay, you can go to Councillor Martin.
Martin.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Ali, for picking this up, and Festival Republic. I would just to go back to one of in the safety plan. First of all, it says safety messages for customers using taxis and private hire vehicles of the dangers of getting into unbooked vehicles. So my whole point is about Hackney carriages. You don't book them, you use them. So that's my first point. Do you want to address that, please?
That's correct. That's a point that was listed that came out of the debrief discussions from last year. No, not my words. But like you say, we're in total agreement that taxi ranks, there is no pre-booking. So the signage will reflect we're highlighting the dangers to getting into private hire vehicles that haven't been pre-booked, not the taxi rank or Hackney carriages.
Thank you for clarifying that. So it will be made clear that you can safely get into Hackney carriages. The second question and just leading on from what Councillor Ali picked up was, I know that in previous years, a particular hire company, Uber, had priority in the sort of premium area, which was over and above both the other pre-booked the pre-booked private hire companies, and also over and above the Hackney carriages. How does that help? Because I previously had reports of people being charged up to £100 to get into Leeds city centre by Uber, compared to £35, I think, is the standard fare. But yesterday I heard of some young women being charged, I think, £300 collectively to get back into Leeds by Uber because of their dynamic pricing. I'm not suggesting that that's illegal, but it just feels really unfair. And no wonder people phone up their parents to go and collect them up if that's what they're going to be charged by certain companies. And just could we not have a bit more fairer competition outside the gates for the Hackney carriages and other?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off then. I'm actually going to invite Nick from Taxi and Private Hire Licensing to come in on this, because he he did submit some additional information. I think it'll be pertinent to this, and then we'll carry on the discussion.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not aware of any arrangements that Festival Republic have with Uber, so I think that'd be for Festival Republic to answer. However, in relation to what's been said previously as to the location of each area, we were advised by Festival Republic that the location of the Hackney carriage rank was placed where it was to allow the effective management of the queue, because it would allow the queue to run a bit longer down the middle of the site, and also because of the exit, because the Hackney carriage rank is closer to the vehicle exit out onto Mangrel Lane. I think is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The three pens, if you like, sit next to each other, and so it is one of one, one of another, whether they're getting in first or out first. But the queue management system, they're effectively all next to each other. And just to confirm on the Uber point, we've never given Uber priority as such. We don't currently have a partnership with Uber. We are still going to be implementing an Uber pen just to meet the demands of the customers. There seems to be a lot of people in Leeds that do use Uber, so we feel that we should facilitate that. So we'll have still the 3 separate areas, but they will absolutely not be given priority.
Thank you. In terms of the dynamic pricing for Uber, again, we have no control as a council over what private hire operators can charge. Does that answer those questions?
Yes, I understand that we've got no control over it, but what I'm saying is, and by not giving Uber priority, do you mean that in terms of the location of this pen, it's not closer for festival goers to use? I mean, why are they paying you that if they're not getting some sort of priority? I'd like that clarifying, please. Thank you.
Well, we don't have a relationship. We don't have they're not paying us. We don't have a partnership with Uber for this year, but we reserve the right to have a partnership with Uber. We don't take a back end of the taxi fares or anything of that sort. And quite honestly, I think what we do is perfectly good. I'll be very straightforward about it. We don't control dynamic pricing. We have no involvement in dynamic pricing. Nobody's forced to get into an Uber. When there are hackneys there, people use them. Yeah, I really, the private hire companies effectively have equal standing in terms of where their positions are. It may be a little further to walk to the hackney carriage, but then they're first out because they're quicker to exit.
Can I ask when did you have a relationship with Uber? If you're happy to say that, because
I've had a relationship with Uber on and off at different festivals over many years, actually. Over many years.
Did you last year, out of interest?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. I think the point, Councillor Martin, I don't want to put words.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Lucy, I thought you said we had a private arrangement, an arrangement with Uber. But to go back to this pen, why can't all pre-booked taxis use this pen? Sorry, pre-booked private hire use this pen?
Because we choose to put Uber, which is a predominantly used one, in a separate one. That's why. Because we choose to do it that way.
Ed, do you want to, you had a question?
Yeah, a question that builds on this. It doesn't necessarily resolve that disagreement. I suppose, is there something about just wanting to try to stop starry-eyed people getting fleeced? Can there be something about messaging about saying you really shouldn't be paying more than, obviously dynamic pricing, none of us control, they don't control, but something about, did you know that an average average private hire trip to Leeds is X amount, and then that just giving people information, and then if they're getting charged 300, they know then being fleeced.
Yeah, I mean, I'm unaware of anybody being charged. I mean, certainly nobody's written into us telling us that they were charged that amount of money. But I think your suggestion, Councillor Carlyle, is a very good one, and that is to publish what our expected price is something that I think we can do, and very happily do already, actually, to be honest. So yes, very happy to do that.
Jason, Richard, isn't there an issue with reception and being able to actually get into a pre-booked taxi?
There is, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I was going to raise it, the few points in my bit. So there's 3 issues that we've previously raised at the multi-agency meetings. One is the improved signage for both drivers entering the site and for customers. It was raised last year that the signage was very limited, and that needed significantly improving for this year. Obviously, Festival Republic have said that signage has been improved. what I would ask is, are we able to see that signage prior to the event so that we can make sure that it's appropriate and meets those requirements? Yeah, thank you. Secondly, improved lighting. Last year there was only one unit for the taxi and private hire areas, and we had several near misses that were noted by council officers of vehicles nearly hitting attendees. Have we got an update on lighting in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. We put tower lights down in that area. That's the most effective way to light that kind of that space. And so when I send over the signage plan, I can share the tower light plan as well that shows the different where we've placed those across that area.
Thank you. Is that more lighting for that area then?
It is, yeah. It's been reviewed in that area, looking at the car parks, the pick up and drop off, and the taxis.
Thank you. And the last point that we're going to raise is in relation to mobile phone signal. The lack of a signal does cause significant issues for both customers and drivers at busy periods, especially on Friday, Saturday night, and Sunday. Most operators rely on phone apps, and those rely on good signal being available. And we do have drivers who will attend with pre-bookings, and they'll go off the screen because of the signal, and also customers looking for the drivers that find it very difficult to navigate when the app doesn't work. Is there any provision for improving the signal?
So we invite the different mobile networks to bring temporary masts onto the site. This year we've got 11 phone booster masts in total across the Bramham Park site. One of those is looking to be in that pick up and drop off area, but essentially they choose the locations based on line of sight to be able to capture as much of the audience as they can. And we do struggle with signal, but like I say, we invite those mobile phone providers to come on site, and each year they review the locations. So we're hoping it can be improved for this year, but it is a little bit out of our control.
Chair, I would respond to that by also saying I will investigate putting some Wi-Fi in at that taxi and pickup drop-off point. That doesn't help telephone signal, but it certainly helps the WhatsApp usage and the app usage generally. So I can't guarantee that, but listen to what you're saying there. I think I could investigate the use of a Starlink or something of that sort of that would certainly improve the WhatsApp usage and other message services of that sort.
Have you got anything else to say, Nick? Sorry.
No, in terms of our feedback, those 3 points were the major issues that came out of the last festival.
And have we had reports of touting and over charging as well?
Yeah, we have had previous complaints in relation to touting and applying for hire at the festival, and these have been investigated where the complaints have been made to us.
So this is a major safeguarding issue. I mean, I'm worried about this. This is, you know, if taxi and private hire operators aren't able to get a phone signal and they're essentially touting and then overcharging, this is, especially when, you know, there's a younger demographic, this is a safeguarding problem and we need to do something about it. I'm not sure what arrangement, I'm not sure why there's an arrangement for Uber to have their own pen. You know, they said there's no commercial interest in that, and that's fine, but I don't understand the logic behind that. And of course, I don't understand the logic of putting Hackney carriage that don't require to have a phone signal because they don't need to have a pre-booking. So it's the only way that people can definitely get into a cab and be assured that it's safe to do, put further away. I'm concerned about those things. Councillor Ali, you wanted to make a point.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, you know, after hearing all this, you still think that it's all right to have those 3 pens together? That's a serious worry for me. So these people are then charging what they're pleasing, and that's what the chair said and what licensing have said. With the Hackney carriage, there's none of this. You still think it's all right to have those 3 pens together? That's a serious cause for concern for safety, from my point of view.
I don't understand why you see it as a safety issue in terms of the pens together, in terms of the queuing arrangements. The queuing they're put together on the basis of the queuing arrangements. There has been no concern expressed about the queuing arrangements. We have no control over who pre-books which private hire. We have no ability to influence that. I'm perfectly happy to put the Hackney carriage first, but they will be last out at that point because they'll have to queue longer to get out. And that means that they're charging effectively a fixed price or more or less a fixed price, but queuing longer to get out. And therefore the ability for them, that then becomes problematic in my experience, that they want to get out quicker because they're charging on a fixed price.
Councillor Ali.
You say you've had no concern before. Well, you have a concern now. And you have a breakdown of system where traffic management, that they're going to be out later. That's something for you to look at. Okay. And that's something for you to improve on. That you can't give that rationale here to say they will be out later. That's something you need to work with partners and make sure that people are out of it safely. You've openly said, you know, there's people here that you've never had an issue. Well, you've got an issue now, and I would like that to be addressed, please.
But we address safety issues all of the time, Councillor Ali, and we will continue to do so.
I think there needs to be more engagement with taxi and private hire licensing and highways on this issue clearly, because something's not quite working. And it is a safeguarding issue if essentially private hire drivers are playing for hire rather than actually committing to their pre-booked booking, for want of a better phrase. It's a problem. It's why taxis aren't allowed to do that, and why we have a different Hackney carriages have different operating conditions than taxi and private taxis do. So we need to look at it. So Jason, are you happy to sort of to meet with representatives from Festival Republic and look at what we can do to improve this? Yeah. Okay. And LCC Highways, Nick, are you happy with that? Yeah. Can we get that commitment? Would you mind, so that we can sort this out?
I'm very happy with that commitment. As I said, prior to your statement, Chair, the answer it does appear to be to put a Wi-Fi hub down there, and that's what's come out of this meeting. And I'm very happy to investigate doing that. I can't see any reason why we wouldn't succeed in doing that. It's a remote point, but I'm pretty certain I can do it.
That sounds really good, and I appreciate that, Mr. Ben. Would you commit to meeting with taxi and private hire licensing and LCC highways, national highways if needed? But I don't think that
100%. We are constantly committed to meeting with the private hire taxis as well as the Hackney carriage people.
So LCC taxi
and
private
LCC.
Hire, yeah. Can we do that before this festival as well? Can we?
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Next on the list. Who have we not heard from that's here today? We've got LCC ERS. I think we've got the SIA team as well. Any of those partners can go first. SIA, maybe? Are you here? Have they gone? Yeah, of course. Sorry, Councillor Hutchinson. Yes, Councillor Hutchinson has a question first.
It's just a quick one for the taxi private hire, just regarding taxi enforcement, if they're there, when they're going to be around, and what the protocol will be for out of area taxis.
So in relation to our staffing, there will be enforcement officers up at the festival throughout the festival period, including the Sunday. We also have assistance from Bradford Taxi and Private Hire Licensing, who will be sending officers to assist us. In terms of out of area vehicles coming into the festival, we've, as with our own vehicles, we ensure that they have a booking to be on site. If not, they'll be asked to leave. But we do get quite a lot of vehicles from out of town, quite far away, coming to the festival to pick up pre-bookings that have been made.
Yeah, so I'm like sort of hinting towards like the Wolverhampton, Rochdale sort of scenario, and we're going to be looking out for that. We know that obviously the licensing rules or taxi rules are slightly different to ours.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, as always, we will ensure that they have pre-bookings in place to be at the festival. If they haven't, again, they'll be asked to leave, and obviously any offences will be dealt with.
Obviously, the problem's been that they're having pre-bookings and then they get in there and then those pre-bookings, they can't find them. That's the problem. And we're putting, obviously, I mentioned the risk to the public, but obviously it's putting drivers at a risk too, because then they're not able to sort of fulfill their pre-booking, and they could get done for touting when actually they're trying to adhere to the rules, but there's just no phone signal.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. That is one of the main issues. The festival stewards are very good at ensuring that those vehicles that attend site have a booking. I know from last year, the previous years, the stewards will turn people away who don't have bookings. However, as you've mentioned, when on site, we do have cases of drivers, their bookings disappearing because of the signal, and then there's obviously issues that arise from that.
We've got the SIA team then, please.
Good afternoon all. So my name's Ivan Tuff from the SIA. I'm standing in today for my manager, Lucia Howland, who's unavailable. I don't have a great deal to say, but hopefully the bit that I do have to say is very positive. Last year was my first time working at Leeds Festival. And this is the first time that I've been involved in the organisational process. My manager, Lucia, made a comment at the meeting in January, which was about hopefully increasing the communication side of things, better communications between us and Festival Republic. And I'm pleased to say that communications between the two organisations have massively improved. So thank you to Festival Republic for that. Really pleased about that. Any information that we've requested has been provided. It's been provided in a timely manner. We've also had a meeting with a gentleman that is dealing with the coordination of the security. So it's all been very positive. One of my colleagues is currently in the process of communicating with all of the major security providers. We've dealt with the majority of them last year and other festivals as well. And therefore, we don't foresee any problems. We're really happy with where we are currently. We're 3 weeks away and things are looking good. The only very small point to mention, which is in process, and that is that we've not yet got accreditation for our staff that are working on the days to get on site as yet. However, I understand that is being dealt with by Jeannie and someone called Laura at Festival Republic. So yeah, I think things are very positive from our point of view.
Excellent, thank you very much. And yes, at the SAG meeting that I attended recently, I think it was Lucia who said that things have improved markedly and Festival Republic have been great. So that's great to hear that there's been significant improvements there. Members, do you have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Nick, you've been very... Is it Nick? No. Remind me your name, sorry.
Nick Devine.
Oh, it is Mick. Okay. Thank you, Mick. You've been very patient. If you wouldn't mind, please.
Thanks, Chair. Our plan around the festival centres around four main threads: prevention, protection, response, and resilience. In terms of prevention this year, we would welcome Festival Republic's approach. Banning campfires has really helped to reduce the risk of fire through removing a source of fuel. And the banning or the control of disposable vapes removes a dangerous source of ignition from waste on the site. Importantly, the banning of campfires and barbecues aligns nicely with our current public prevention message. In terms of messaging, Festival Republic mentioned earlier a press release going out, so possibly we can work with our corporate comms and try and boost that message as well. In terms of protection, our fire protection inspectors have reviewed the fire risk assessment that's been provided by Midlands Fire, and they're content with it. They have no further comments to add to it. Midlands Fire also provide immediate response on the site. They're there for a number of days, and they provide a fire crew and some dedicated firefighting appliances that are suited to the terrain up there. They also provide an additional 10,000 litre water source for firefighting. We'll further mitigate this risk by arranging site visits for our operational commanders who will be on duty at the time, and hopefully some of the crews. And Festival Republic have always supported these visits and familiarisation. We'll brief crews and fire control who will be on duty to improve their situational awareness. And we'll have commanders available to attend multi-agency command as part of the larger response to the bank holiday events, including the Chapelton Carnival. We will also establish and maintain communications with Midlands Fire as soon as they're established on site, and have a contact between them and our fire control. In terms of resilience, the main problem that we face with Bram site is a lack of water for firefighting. This isn't anything to do with the festival. It's particular to the site. And we'll mitigate this by reminding crews on fire control to consider requesting additional water through the use of water tankers to boost the resources locally and potentially from North Yorkshire as well. Apart from that, really, we'll look forward to attending the site visits and really seeing how things look on the ground, and that will probably form the next main part of our plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. Any questions, members? You both put your hand up at the same time, so work out yourself.
No, I think we were discussing a point which I may be taking on part of what Councillor Hutchinson was going to say. And it's more to Festival Republic. On your website, it has instructions for barbecues, etc. Now, on the website, it does say that they're not permitted this year, but there's still the advice about using them and about the effects of them, etc. And I just wonder whether it's appropriate to keep that information on, or in that section to say quite clearly in that section they are no longer permissible. Oh, I'm sorry, and a second bit about the vapes. I note that you said that if you discover vapes on people, you will remove them. Just to clarify how they will then be disposed of, because they will be full and they will be, if they were disposed of on site without you knowing, because as you said that they're small and easy to keep on your body, if you're not searching for them and not removing them proactively, there will be some on the site, but also there will be those that you do remove. And what are you doing for that disposal of those?
Councillor, in terms of the first question, in terms of campfires and barbecues, yes, your point is well made. The information that is on there, has been on there, was information relating to when we were allowing barbecues, etc. We are no longer, as I said, the press release and the information is going out today. The website information will be amended in accordance with what you're suggesting as a result of that going out. So yes, thank you for picking up on that. I trust that we would have, but thank you, we definitely will do so now. In terms of vapes, the disposable vapes, there are special tubes that you buy, special containers that you buy in order to put them into. That's what we're buying in terms of what we're using to dispose of them where we find them. We are also going to make those available to the public as well, in the knowledge that some will still get in. That may seem contradictory, but it still seems the most sensible thing to do in my view.
I guess it was slightly to echo Councillor Downs. It's quite hard to find on the website about the no barbecues, and again also about the carbon monoxide warnings. I think it's just a revision of the website maybe on that point, and with the vapes as well. Sorry to keep going back to it as other members have. It's really, I could only find it on one small little section where it says what you can and can't do at the festival. You've got to really dig down to actually find that you're not allowed to bring those disposable vapes. So maybe just more emphasis on that, I think, because it is quite an emerging hobby, I guess, whatever it is with the younger people. And I don't think they're going to go trawling the website to try to find out if they can bring it or not. And they may be disappointed when they get there. They spent, I don't know, 20 quid on buying one for the day, and then it gets chucked in a bin as soon as they get there. That's all. Thanks.
Councillor Hutchinson, yeah, the website does provide that sort of information, but the key messaging around the disposable vapes is actually mainly by social media on Twitter and Instagram, which is and TikTok, etc., which is much shorter, much more explicit, much more videographic, and much more instant. And that gets put out repeatedly in that sense on those accounts.
Just a question to West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue, please. So is it there's a private provider that's providing a big tank of water that's being used during the festival, say, is it Thursday to Sunday or whatever, and then after that on the Monday when there's a clear up, that's not there, and then you guys are having to use limited water supplies from a nearby farm. Are we confident that that's safe?
My understanding is that Midlands Fire are there from the Thursday through to the Monday afternoon. Then you have the cleanup and breakdown operation. When Midlands Fire leave, they take their the water tanker with them. So we would then have to use just the water that's on a fire appliance, and then top out it from hydrants. Unfortunately, there aren't very many water sources within the site, so that requires really ferrying it back and forth across the site, which is quite inefficient, time consuming. We can mitigate that by requesting a water tanker to attend as well, but I suppose their limited travel time from West Yorkshire would be quite long. We would get around that by requesting one from North Yorkshire. There's one based in Tadcaster, which is a relatively short distance. So I'm confident we can mitigate it. It's just not the most efficient sort of way to fight a fire.
We'll just note that then. And members, any other questions? No, okay. In that case, I believe it's last but not least, but we've got Safer Leeds as Claire from Safer Leeds. Thank you, Claire. Thank you for being patient as well.
No, it's absolutely fine. I mean, to be honest with you, from everything that you've gone through today, it's really given us a lot of reassurance. We did have concerns around the barbecues and everything that had been set up previously. So you've kind of taken that into account, which is really positive, and the drug spiking as well, because that was an area of concern for us. It was kind of obviously what's happened at a number of festivals, and obviously the drug overdoses and everything like that. It's really reassuring to hear about the camps that have been set up separately as well, and the air hubs. So that's really positive. Kind of any questions and concerns that I had seem to have been covered. So really, really pleased to kind of hear that. And if we could kind of keep engaging with ourselves as well around any safety aspects, that'd be greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Claire. Members, anything else? Have I missed anybody off that wants to speak? No. We can go into closed session to ask questions to the police and other partners. Would members like to do that? Can you indicate if you would, please? The wristband. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Should we? Okay, well, let's move into private. We're going to have to vote on it. All those in favour, please, for moving in to private session, closed session, rather. Yeah. Okay, that's carried. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody again for the contributions. I think it's been a really good discussion today, and again, really pleased to see so many improvements to this year's Leeds Festival. I think it's great that, you know, following the meeting last year and earlier in this year, that you've really listened and taken on board some of the suggestions, including with the letter that that I sent as well. And for my part, I think there's it's looking to be a great festival this year. Does anybody have any comments, any final questions before we move to the recommendation under point agenda item number 8? Okay, members, turning to recommendations on page 11 of the agenda. The committee is asked to hear from Mr. Melvin Benn and representatives from Festival Republic on the planning and preparation of the 2023 festival, and receive comments from partners of the Safety Advisory Group. And we note that the information provided to us, are members happy with that? Well, we've done that, so yes. Then we're asked to either delegate approval of the final event management plan to the chief officer, elections and regulatory, or delegate approval of the final event management plan to a 3 members licensing subcommittee to be convened on Tuesday, the 22nd of August, 2023. Now, following our discussion earlier this morning in the pre-meet, which seems like a long time ago, we do have a recommendation from Councillor Downs.
Thank you, Chair. I propose that we continue as we have done in previous years and delegate the final decision to officers, but also that we look at a possibility of changing the system for next year in conjunction with SAG, and we bring that forward to the next meeting, or as soon as possible, so that we can then inform Festival Republic of how we would like to proceed, if we do indeed decide to make some changes. But I think we should review it for next year, not change the system this year.
Thank you very much. Would somebody like to second that? Councillor Hutchinson. Okay. Councillor Hinchcliffe got there first. Councillor Hutchinson. Can we vote on that then, please? All those in favour? Okay, and that's passed. Thank you very much. At this point, then we'll say goodbye to everybody from the Safety Advisory Group, Festival Republic, and thank you all again for your time here today for that very useful conversation. And we'll see you all next year.
Thank you, Chair.
If anybody needs a comfort break, now's the time before we move on to agenda item number 8. Members, can I ask if you return back to your seats, please? Okay, committee members, we're going to move now on to agenda item number 8, which is licensing subcommittee revocation of taxi driver licenses on the basis of minor motoring convictions. Can I invite officers present to present this item, please?
Good afternoon, Chair. Members, my name is Kev Shillito. I'm Section Head in Legal Services, and I'm presenting this brief report seeking an extension of the subcommittee pilot scheme. I trust you've all read the report, so I'm not going to go through it in any great detail. Suffice to say, this is a decision, this reflects a decision taken 12 months ago to establish a pilot scheme that was time limited. For a variety of reasons, there have been no cases had to come to licensing subcommittee, but sod's law, that's about to change. So ideally, the pilot needs extending by a 12-month period so we can get some test cases through it. I'm not going to give you any more information. It's all in the report, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So we'll.
I don't have a question, just to say we had quite an extended discussion on this, didn't we, last year? And given that you said that there's some in the pipeline, but we've not had a chance yet to look at them, my suggestion is that we just extend it.
Question to Jason, please, about this before we do go to making the decision. There's been some suggestion, including from a video that was circulated recently, that there hasn't been any cases, that there have been cases that should have been heard by the subcommittee, or quite a lot of cases that should have been heard by the subcommittee, but that the decisions have been made without the subcommittee, which is not what we agreed. I'm presuming that that's not true at all.
That's not the case, Chair, but Richard will be able to confirm the exact numbers that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We haven't had any revocations, decisions that have been made for any minor motoring convictions with the remit that was set last year. We're now in a position where we've got approximately 3 cases that need to go before a subcommittee, and we have spoken with legal, and that's the reason that we asked Kev to consider extending this and bringing it to licensing committee so we can actually do the process that was agreed last year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And of course, it was my understanding that from the minor motoring convictions policy, when we'd updated it, that if somebody tottered up and went over the 9-point threshold, then they were offered training first, which will explain exactly why we've not had any heard by the subcommittee to date.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. The first thing that was agreed in that policy was that training would be given in the first instance. This was to make sure that the driver was fully aware that there was in that remit where revocation was being considered, We're now in that position where we have a number of cases, and that's why we want to seek to extend this subcommittee policy.
Excellent. I'm glad I've been able to set the record straight. Councillor Hutchinson.
Do we have a set procedure of how the subcommittee will run? And is it similar to when we're doing the entertainment licensing? And is it at the same time within the same agenda?
I'll hand over to Kev.
Thank you. It's going to be run in a similar fashion. However, there are some key differences. At the moment, when revocations take place that are officer decisions, they effectively gather the information, create a report and make a decision based on the papers. Licensing subcommittee will have a similar function. There will be a procedure. It will be done on the papers. So officers will collect all the information, including the driver's representations. That will be put into a report that will be presented to the members of the licensing subcommittee, and they'll make a decision based on the information in front of them.
Hutchinson for a follow-up, and then Councillor Hamilton.
And I get also disclosable interests. How would that work? Because at the moment, if there's an entertainment licensing application that's within your ward, you don't sit on the subcommittee. How does it work? And how do we go about if there are any declarations or not?
I'm not overly concerned about any geographical issues because you're not talking about the impact on the neighbourhood, which is what you're dealing with on premises license applications. I'd suggest that only if a member had a relationship with an individual taxi driver that was appearing before the subcommittee, that might cause concern. That's the only time at which an interest would have to be declared. But the legal advisor would be available on the day to give some guidance on that individual case.
And currently, well, previously we had 5 days notice, days notice to give the decision. Currently, we've been doing the occasional one where we're giving the decision on the day. What would be the process for the taxis?
Well, as it will be done on the papers, the license holder won't be in attendance, so the decision will be issued in due course anyway. So it's a bit of a moot point on this one.
Hamilton.
I don't know if mine is a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. You say following the 9 points to get training. So now that you've asked us to extend, is it these cases that are coming? Because you're saying that you've got couple in the pipeline.
I'm sure I'll be corrected if I misunderstand this, but the 3 cases that are going to be coming to licensing subcommittee are those that reached 9 points, received the appropriate training, and have since reoffended.
Do we require any training, any formal training to be on this subcommittee? And if so, well, yeah.
Yeah, we'll discuss this. We definitely need some training. We're definitely going to organise training. It's really important that everybody's completely au fait with how this is going to work. So yes, there will be training.
When are we expecting the first one to be?
In relation to that, we're just waiting for the guidance to come through from legal as to exactly what format they want it to be sent through. As soon as we've got that, we'll be sending the first one through quite quickly.
Go on.
Just on that, if it's going to be, say, weeks away or fairly imminent, would it not be appropriate to get some training in place? Otherwise, we may be in a situation where it comes up and there's nobody trained to do it.
Yeah. We'll need to do some online training over August, won't we? Because I'm not dragging anybody into Civic to do training over August, but I'm sure we can get that arranged. Do we have timescales for when we potentially might hear the first case?
We are talking weeks rather than months. The summer does create a few issues around obviously convening the licensing subcommittee, depending on members' availability. Rob and I will be discussing training pretty soon, and obviously making sure that officers have got everything they need to get the process up and running. And yeah, we'll talk to you about how we put the training in place over the summer.
Might need volunteers then. Yes, Councillor Collar.
I mean, if it's training and bearing in mind it's August, could we not do online training that might make it easier?
Absolutely. That's what we're definitely going to do for August. And then after that, we'll bring everybody in September. But in August, I don't want anybody to have to come into Civic. Blame me for that. That's Helen's fault. Right. Okay. Are we happy to accept the recommendations on page 23? 23. I can't find it. 23. Are we happy to accept? Yeah. Okay. All those in favour. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 9. Date and time of the next committee meeting is the 19th of September. Have a good holiday if you're going on one. Councillor Downs, you'll be buying tins of soup to go into the music festivals by the sounds of it.